Welcome to Small Business Big Visibility. We're talking about websites. This is part of the mini-series on websites for small business owners, where we're giving you the information you need so that you can have an effective website that's going to help you grow your business instead of holding your business back. Today we're talking about frequently asked questions. Do they actually help? Do they make it better? Do they make it worse? How do you make it work? How do you make it help for both SEO as well as for customer flow? There's a ton of answers and we're going to be diving into them today. So the first question is, should you have a frequently asked questions page? And the answer is no, unless you have frequently asked questions. If you're new enough to business, you don't know what the customers are going to be asking on a regular basis, don't bother trying to put an FAQ together. It's going to be a waste of space, a waste of time, and a waste of resources. Have you ever seen a frequently asked question page and the questions on the page just seem like they're ridiculous? They don't apply to you as a customer at all. They're nothing that you ever thought about, nothing you ever wondered about. Half the time it's like the company's just trying to brag in there and didn't know where else to put this information. Is it true that you've won multiple awards? Who goes around asking a company that? And they put it in the FAQ section. It's just absurd. So if that's what you're planning to do with your FAQ, just don't do it. But FAQs can be extremely helpful, and there's some different places you can actually put them. So you can have a dedicated FAQ page, which can be nice, but then you can also put little FAQ sections on other pages as well. If you have some extremely common questions that just get brought up very quick and you don't know how else to present that information, you can have a small FAQ section right on the homepage of your website. Also, if you provide a specific service or you're selling a specific product and there are questions that people always ask in relationship to that product or service, you can grab just a few of the top questions and list them out on that product or on that service page. Doing that is going to make that flow for the customer far more effective. Are you beginning to see how FAQs can either help or not help? Hopefully you're starting to get some ideas around what you can be doing for FAQs and how you can implement them into your site in an effective way. So let's jump back to the FAQ page itself for a minute and talk through that. When an FAQ page is done right, these are some of the benefits that you can get from it. It can help reduce the pre-sales questions and objections that people are throwing out there because you can go ahead and answer those in the FAQ page. You can also reduce the repetitive questions you get. Sometimes you just hear the same question over and over and over. Putting it on that FAQ page is going to give people the opportunity to find that question ahead of time. And then having good FAQs on that page gives potential customers an opportunity to go through and get a little bit more familiar with your company, your processes, your services, even before they connect with you, so they've already got a bunch of the questions answered. Then also, it can help in the sales process. If people are asking the same questions all the time, having those FAQs can actually train your team as well so that they know the right answers to those questions and they can reference back to those FAQs when they're trying to give answers to the potential customers or the existing customers as well. So here's a few different scenarios where FAQs help. If the same questions are asked over and over, if the service is confusing and it has maybe different price points, different processes, or there's different timetables depending on variables that they're buying with the product. Higher ticket services oftentimes need a little bit more trust, and so they have a bunch of FAQs. I've seen a ton of events that will put an FAQ section on the event answering the very specific questions people have. Multi-step processes about quoting, installs, follow-up, how does all that work? FAQs can be a good place to put those questions. Then the last piece is if your team keeps answering the same question over and over, you can put that answer in the FAQ and then send it right off to customers as a part of your process. And if you do it just right, you can send it to them right before they would even be thinking about that, which means that email or that text drops right in front of them right about the moment they're going to ask the question, and then they're like, wow, this company's amazing. They already know my concerns and they're answering them before I can even ask. So now let's cover for just a second a few places where FAQs will actually hurt. If you're just trying to drop a bunch more content onto your site and you think that you're going to quote unquote optimize your site for search engines using the FAQ, and you're just trying to stuff that thing full of words, it's not going to help. People aren't going to read these long, lengthy answers that are talking about nothing. And the search engines are getting smart enough. They're going to know that people don't care about your big, long paragraphs of text answering questions nobody cares about. So if you're trying to just optimize it to get more content on your site and to dump a bunch of content on there, that's going to hurt, not help. Also, if your answers are vague or just fluff, it doesn't help at all. If you're just pontificating and it takes you too long to get to the actual point and the actual answer, it's not great. The shorter the answers can be, generally the better. People aren't there to read a book. They're there to just figure out the answer to the one question they have. Another thing that can also hurt is if you're just duplicating the same content and putting it all over. So if you have the exact same questions and answers on every single page of your site, because it's important that these questions get answered, it's not really going to help either. It just will look like repetitive fluff all over your site too. And then if you're trying to use FAQs to eliminate or replace human connection between either yourself or your team and the customer or the potential customer, if you're trying to replace the human connection with FAQs, that's the wrong approach. You don't want to replace human connection. You want to supplement it, and you want the FAQs to eliminate some of the friction so that you can have stronger, better connections with your potential customers, not less connection. So let's jump into some of the types of questions maybe you could put on an FAQ. If you haven't tried to build one before, oftentimes it's a little nebulous. What do I put on there? What shouldn't I put on there? So here's some different categories that could help. Cost range type information. If you cannot put a specific price on your services, you can explain what the pricing model looks like or how you determine your price so that the customers have a better idea of what that process is going to look like, and potentially even some ranges in there so that they get an idea. How much will this most likely cost? Well, we usually sit in this sort of a range, and it depends on these factors. Answering that in the FAQ lets the customers understand you're not just randomly throwing darts at the wall when you're picking price for them. Another one that's really helpful is timelines, whether it's timelines for shipping, whether it's timelines for the sales process, whether it's timelines for fulfillment on whatever it is you're selling. Timelines can really be nice for people so that they can get a sense of what the process is going to look like from the moment they're handing you the cash or they start talking to you until whatever it's doing is going to happen and be done. People want to have something that they can rely on, something that they know that is going to kind of guide the process so that they have some sense of expectation. All right, here's a few more I'm going to blast through. Service area. If people want to know, you can throw a little bit of information about your service area in the FAQ section. Also, how to start. What does that look like? Do they need to fill out paperwork? Do they just call you? What's your whole process flow for getting started with them? Maybe some guarantee type information. If they need some details around a guarantee, you can put it in there. Payment options. If they're just perusing and they don't know how they can pay, you can throw that in there, or who this service is for. And then last but probably most important is what you need to do is you need to start paying attention to questions that get asked at different stages of the business cycle. So if you do the sales in your company or have someone that does, I would bet that there's 4 or 5 questions that gets asked almost every single time somebody is coming to buy your product or service. They just get asked over and over and over. You want to make sure that you can extract those top questions and set those aside so that 1, you make sure the sales team have the right answers, but then 2, you can put those on your site either in the FAQ page or in a section on homepage or service page, product page. Some page can answer those top few questions for the questions that get asked during the sales process. Same thing during operations. When you're fulfilling or delivering or building or doing whatever you promised when you were selling, what are the top questions that happen then? You can put those questions in the FAQs as well. All right, so how do you structure an FAQ? I've seen some that are more effective or less effective, but usually you want them to be able to collapse so that they can quickly scan the questions. Some FAQs will have a search feature where you can actually search and it eliminates the FAQs that don't apply. That's a little bit more technically advanced, but super helpful for customers. And then Oftentimes also they'll group FAQs, if there's a lot of them, by either where they're at in the sales cycle, so sales questions, fulfillment questions, or maybe you can break them up in other categories. Think about it. What I would recommend is, if you have a lot of FAQs, I would take sticky notes and write out all the FAQs that you have, stick them on a wall, and then start finding different ways you can organize and group it, and pretty soon you'll find one that really works well, and then you can move it onto the internet. All right, now getting back to SEO. Search engines and AI seem to love FAQs. So if you have them on your site, that can be really helpful. Here's a few tips to kind of supercharge that so that they work even better for you. First, you want to use customers' wording, not some technical jargon. If your normal customers don't understand the words that you're putting in the FAQ, you might as well not even have it. The AIs and the search engines are going to know whether you're using jargon that doesn't fit. So make sure you're writing in a way that your customers understand. Next is question style headings. This is by far the most common. I probably don't even need to say it, but usually you want to pose the question up at the top as a heading and then have the answer right below it. Make sure that your answers are very specific. Don't get off in generic fluff, and don't try and fluff the content up to make it bigger so that you get more word count. If possible, you can use schema markup on your FAQs, and that can also help as well. But if you don't know what schema is and you're using a platform that doesn't support that, don't worry too much about it. It's just a little boost that you can do if it's possible in your situation. Then also, you want to keep your answers up to date. Don't let them fall out of date because you're not keeping up with any changes that need to be made on those FAQs. And then also, make sure that they're unique. You don't put the same FAQ block on the home page, on the About Us page, on the Services page, on the Contact Us page, on the Gallery page. Don't do it. If you're going to have FAQs, make them related to the content on those specific pages, and then have a dedicated FAQ page if you have enough FAQs that it really warrants having that full page of information. All right, in closing, we've covered a ton of information on FAQs. I didn't even know I could talk this long about FAQs. Hopefully it was helpful. If you've got questions, leave a comment for me. If this was helpful, please like the video, share it with other people who are maybe struggling or not sure what to do with their website as well. I'd love to get some support to really push this out to as many small business owners as possible. And be sure to tune in for all the other videos that we have in this mini series on websites for small business owners. Thanks. Many small business owners don't know if they should put an FAQ on their website or not, or what to even put there. Here's a few different ideas for you. You don't have to dedicate a full page for FAQs. You can embed the FAQs on the home page, on the Services page, on the About Us page. Make sure, though, if you're going to do that approach, that the FAQs are unique to the content for each of those pages. So the home page would be your top most common questions. The service page, you put FAQs that relate to the service that you're providing. The About Us page would have FAQs related to the company itself. And the Gallery page would be FAQs that often happen when people are thinking about the project and what it could look like. Have you ever seen a website that has an FAQ on it and the FAQs are garbage? They don't even answer any of the questions you have. They're just a bunch of fluff that pat the business owner on the back. The best way you can approach FAQs is you go out and find the top questions that your customers have been asking during the sales process, during fulfillment, as customer support, and you collect all those and put those with the right answers on the FAQ page. FAQ pages can be awesome for SEO. The AIs love them. You've got so many opportunities to help get the right answers out to your customers. Using an FAQ page can help you as a business owner streamline your operations, answering questions customers have before they can even ask them, so that you're looking like the good guy.